Matthew, very happy to be hosting you at this new episode of Leaders Cut the BS. So I'm very excited to have you here on board. Matthew, just for the audience, people who don't know you, I can introduce you, your counsel at Scale LLP. You did a lot as
Mhm.
well in your career, but I won't get into these details. I want people to hear from you directly. So, like for those who don't know you, give them a bit of background. Who is Matthieu Hausig? And if I'm saying the name right as well.
Sure. I usually go by Matt, but yeah, so I've been practicing uh, IP law for now a little over 25 years. I started off at a boutique firm a long time ago, uh, did a lot of litigation, and then switched over to more of a counseling thing where I was helping companies trying to break into the market, trying to get through lots of patent minefields. And then last year, I made a switch to move over to Scale, which which has been a great experience for me. It's a very dynamic and fun place to be at. So pretty much now, just trying to build up my practice, getting a lot more involved in AI. It's been a lot of change. The legal field has been one of those things where it was pretty static for a long time in terms of technology, and now it just feels like every month is what tool we're using now. So it's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It feels like even last week you get this new tool and the other big companies are just like saying, responding. So yeah, it's very dynamic. Great. So where do you spend most of your time? What do you spend most of your time thinking about at work?
So it depends on what I'm working on, but a lot of what I'm doing is it's a mix. When I first started Scale, I was doing litigation, and litigation is one of those feast or famine things where when the litigation is going on, that's what you're working on. And particularly when I started, it was an ITC case, which is the International Trade Commission. It's kind of like a federal litigation, except that a lot of the rules get thrown out and the schedule is about 3 times faster than it typically would be. So that's intense. Otherwise, I tend to work with a few large clients, and I am I I'm trying to keep them safe. So I do a lot of monitoring. I do a lot of counseling. If they have a product they want to get at launch, I'll make sure do all the diligence to make sure they can get that out there. If they are, if they have concerns about, we want to make this change, we have this already out there, just generally vetting all of that. And then with new clients and that are coming in, it tends to be a bit of a different dynamic where they want to get out on the market. If they have a product, that process of taking them from we have an idea, we haven't fully commercialized it, but we want to be protected when we get out there, and we want to be able to do what we want to be able to actually sell this. That to me is really probably the most fun because it's new technology. There's a lot of unexpected twists, and so I can really spend a lot of time just thinking about where can we take this? What can we do with what you've given me this? What can we do with this? And let's try to get a good patent application. Let's try to get a good strategy going forward so you can have so when you do manage to commercialize, you're in great shape.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like there's defending the ones that have the IP filed or creating it in the first place. So you have both the shield and the sword in the same time. Okay, amazing. And what's the part of your role that you think surprises people the most?
I think it's probably a lot of it is the business sense, because generally people come to their attorneys and they say, "Well, I have this legal issue," and sometimes that legal issue can be it's splitting hairs. And what really matters is understanding the business side. It's not about we have a great patent. We want to pursue this. Can you use this? Is there a commercial value here? Where someone is bothered, you can have a fight and it turns out, well, you want to spend $100,000 for a fight that might only be worth $5,000. Why are so there are many times when my advice is not, here's what I can do for you, but you shouldn't be doing this. You should be
Mm,
saving your money.
yeah.
And I think that that's something that clients tend to respect, because they're usually, a lot of times the client is expecting, well, how much is it going to cost me? And if you're able to have that conversation of in the first place, the why as opposed to how much. I
Mm,
think that brings a lot of value.
interesting. That's super insightful. Yeah. So the thought process here is like it's also very ethical and very like nice kind of you to really focus on you shouldn't be picking up a fight, you shouldn't be like spending more of that money. Most of like counselors or lawyers will be like, sure, more money the better, so it's very nice that you focus on that. So, yeah, if we zoom in inside the workflow, walk us through a normal week for you and maybe your team, where do you feel
Sure,
work
yeah.
tends to pile up?
So, for example, I might have use for a lot of the if I need to look up patents or do some, if I'm searching there, I will typically use software called PatSnap, which recently signed on with them, and they provide, they have a nice package of being able to, if you search, they have a pretty cool AI feature where you can essentially type in paragraphs of material and they'll come back and say, here are the 1,000 patents that are closest. I'll spend a good amount of the week where I'm trying to tailor searches, trying to figure out, you know, what do I need? If there are patents I need to find or analyze, I'll do that. Then might have, oh, we have we're working on a memo, and there I was going to be, and I can take, there I might be using different tools. A big one these days I've been playing with is Harvey. I don't know if you probably heard of that one. It's been around. It's been hit or miss, to be honest. But and I've been using that a bit. I've been using Claude a bit. A lot of it will be the client has come to us. We have a memo we want to prepare for them. How quickly can we turn that around, get all the forms set up, and then have time to think about what are the substantive angles that we can fit into it. So we'll have we'll have maybe schedule a call, get the information from the client, try to get that turned around as quickly as possible so we can then have more information from them coming in if we have questions or have some deliverables to turn around. There's tends to be my afternoons are generally, it's sort of around 3 or 4 o'clock is when I start to turn to LinkedIn and start to go through contacts and start to think about business development because you can't stop doing that.
Yeah.
So there it's a bit, you have to have a bit of a balance between everything.
Yeah, that's good, man. There's a lot of, it's very dynamic. It seems super dynamic. But I love the business development side. I think like when you get to a partner level, that's I think where you start to like do this like a big portion of your time. It sounds like you're already starting this early on, and that's great. And what's the kind of task that quietly eats up time, but no one really questions?
I mean, filling out timesheets might be the one that you can't do it. There's nothing you can do about that other than try to, if, I mean, there are some things like, for example, you can have arrangements where you have flat fees or you say there's a lot of fractional work where it's, hey, I'm going to give you 40 hours of work per month.
Mm,
It's going to be for this amount of money. It makes the billing very simple, particularly when you have, a lot of day-to-day tasks. And
mm,
yeah, if you're typing in, I spent point 1 hours here, point 1 hours here, point 1 hours here, and you have
mm,
50 entries for a client, that's going to take a couple hours just to finish. And yeah,
mm.
that's time that's wasted. You're not
Wow.
billing, you're not doing
Yeah.
anything with that. So that's probably the large one. Other than that, I mean, I do spend a lot of time with certain clients that I know really well. I will go and research and look into, what are their competitors doing? What can I do to just so that I'm going to be, up to speed with whatever happens with them if there's any news in the industry, and that can take up time, but that's more rewarding.
Yeah, I feel you. Oh, the timesheet thing, we get this a lot, but I'm so curious to know, so it's the timesheet you do for the work, because I know there are tools out there, but I hear this a lot. Like this takes a lot of energy, and because the system right now is billing that way, like you bill per the hours you spend, so it's like it's a bit the matrix. This is kind of the currency, and it's hard to automate or to figure out how this can be like you just I know there are tools that you could just do the work and then it keeps on tracking, but I don't know if
Mhm.
this is accepted in the legal space as much, but yeah, and
It
that's very yeah,
can.
yeah,
I mean, the tracking works. You
yeah,
can have a timer. The
yeah,
issue comes to if you have, many small clients, it's they're have they'll you can pretty much bill how you would normally do it. but when you get to large corporate clients, they're going to have, well, we have to have everything. Everyone has to build the same way. We have to have specific codes. So
Yeah.
you're always varying what you can't, there's no one size fits all solution.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. And when things get really busy for you, what do you feel usually breaks first?
That's a tough one. I think what tends to go is a lot of the social contact. As you're,
Mm,
if I'm working all hours and I
mm,
really need to be focused on that, it's hard to try to maintain, some of that, some of the regular casual connection that is really valuable for maintaining business relationships. And so it's one of those things I have to carve out time from what I'm doing so that I can, you know, keep those relationships going. And it's a challenge because it's not, you're going to be getting pulled from so many different directions, and but it's worthwhile to do it. You don't want to let relationships,
yeah,
falter.
absolutely. Family, like we get this a lot. I would get sometimes answer like, what breaks first? And the answer is like, I break first, or sleep, or
Yeah.
social. So it's tough, man. I hear you on that. And okay, so at some point, did AI or automation come as a possible fix to one of these issues? When you're blocked, or time tracking, or any other issues that actually is leading to you taking eating time from your social environment or social life.
I mean, a big one for me has been just the general improvement in efficiency
Mm,
that's capable. I mean, there's so many times when there so much busy work that you can get rid of where, oh, this would take 3 hours to draft this template, and
mm,
no, now it takes 15 minutes to get that initial template that you then
yeah,
go back and can fix. That's huge. I mean, that just completely changes the dynamic. It changes what, if you can get something turned around to a client within a day, and you can get a 20-page document that
yeah,
would normally have taken, half a day just to prepare, to
yeah,
would not even non-substantive work, then yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
just makes a big difference.
So do you feel like you use AI already to?
I think memo drafting has been where AI has been the most helpful.
Mm,
There's also, I mean, the legal research is interesting. I've been using the Westlaw, Claude Lexis, and they have their AI tools, and
mm,
they've gotten much better. On the other hand, there's a lot of attorneys out there and people who've just decided to go pro se, who've used AI, and then they get hallucinations, and then
yeah,
there's that big risk of, if you're doing legal research, you're going to get the answer you're looking for
yeah,
every single time.
yeah,
And if you say, I want a case that tells me that I'm correct, you're going to get a case that tells you you're correct.
yeah,
That case may not exist, but it's going to, you'll read what you have there, and you feel really confident.
yeah,
But what I learned, but you can also do the opposite and take what you have and say, tell me everything that's wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you get exactly what you asked for again. And you get, well, this case doesn't work for your situation, and this is
Mm,
why. Oftentimes that's more valuable. You might, and it actually, what I've found is that being that ability to be a little bit too much in either direction can be pretty useful. It's very similar to having an associate who may not know
mhm,
exactly what the law is. They're pretty green. They're a little overzealous. They need some guidance, but that's your job, and it means that my job still has value. I still have to
yeah,
go look through what the AI has done and try to and discern what's useful,
yeah,
what was overstated, and I find that it's been an interesting process with that, and
yeah,
especially seeing how different platforms have handled that.
yeah. So it sounds like the AI you're using reinforces this bias, and the job here is more like how to like really critically read through that. And
Mhm.
or is the firm like giving you a specific AI that you need to use, or you're like you can try Harvey, you can try Claude. It really depends on the
Oh,
use
yeah,
case.
no.
Yeah.
Scale is very, very much experiment, and
Mm,
it's very AI forward. We've used Harvey. A lot of it is we're trying to leverage as a firm, it's a lot cheaper if you can get a subscription for the whole firm as opposed to a
Yeah.
single person.
Yeah.
So there's always that dynamic, but yeah, it's up to the attorney to use the tools that they want.
Yeah.
If you want to seek
Interesting.
out new tools, if you want to develop your own, your own tools for, specific tasks, that's okay.
Wow.
Haven't jumped into that yet, but Um, it's there's a process of developing workflows. I know that we actually have a set of skills. I think it's right now it's only for Anthropic, but it may be expanding out that are aimed at GCs so that they can do a lot of the kind of there's specific tasks, specific workflows that they can walk through using the AI. And it's an interesting thing because in some sense, it's work that we would otherwise want to be doing for the client that now the client is getting to do essentially for free. It's also work that they would be, the client is going to be doing that for free anyway. So I think we're getting a bit
Mm.
of, we're trying to get out there and make sure that they have, if we can provide quality tools, then they are able, that helps us in the long run.
That's amazing. I love that. I love the flexibility and the culture. That's super like new to me. Like especially in law firms, it sounds very forward, and that's amazing. Okay, and what did you try and didn't really work? You hoped. So you said you tried a few things, but what do you think didn't work or didn't achieve the goals you wanted to achieve?
I mean, I I think Harvey has been one of those, like, I have a love-hate relationship with Harvey. I think it's a useful tool. I'm not sure how well it'll survive as Anthropic and, these other, kind of primary AI companies start to expand out on what they're offering.
Mm.
And, where I ran into issues was where I expected Harvey to be really strong was with contracts. And that's where one of the first times I tried to use it, it taught me a lesson because it took a contract and it rather than working on the document itself, what it does is to create an internal image of the document.
Mm.
And in that internal image, it had, um, rewritten some of the paragraph numbers.
Mm.
It had trouble parsing some things. So when I said, "Can you go tell me where the issues are with the paragraph numbers?" The issues were all in the paragraph numbers that it had mistranslated. And so it was like, "Okay, well, I feel, that was then, that gives me a little bit of pause because yeah, you don't want to have incorrect information,
Yeah.
but in other instances it's been very useful." So
Mm.
and I feel like there's this constant progress where, if you asked, a year and a half ago, if you said, "Oh, I want to use Harvey for this,"
Yeah.
you get a bit of side eye. And now it's, well, no, it'll work for that. It'll work this,
Yeah.
you can use GPT for this. You're going to get it, pretty decent results. I've have a few colleagues who've been, talking about how they'll have cases against pro se, you know, people who are basically using ChatGPT for their entire case.
Mm.
And yeah, 2 years ago when they tried this, it was a disaster, and now it comes up with decent arguments. There's still
Yeah.
gonna be flaws and missteps, but,
Yeah.
you know, you your baseline just increases all the time.
I
And
hear you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And looking back, what do you think was missing when you tried to fix this issue with Harvey or to fix the maybe you said I know you tracking your time spread
Yeah.
time sheet. Like what did you try and what was missing when you tried to fix it?
I think some of it is just it takes time. I mean, it's do I wanna spend, several hours trying to figure out what the problem is and troubleshoot,
Mm.
or is that time just better spent, you just gutting through it and getting it done? And
Yeah.
a lot of times, it's just the time differential isn't worth it. So, I like for putting my time in, it's something that, yeah, I'm not I just wasn't it wasn't a situation where I felt I needed to. It was just easier to just put it in manually than try to find the tool, figure out how to get it working right, and and then only have it work for a couple situations, and have other situations where I wouldn't be using it. But elsewhere it was otherwise with when I used Harvey, I still used it. It just was there was more work on the back end afterwards, just trying to
Yeah.
clean up, and there's always going to be that. So
Yeah.
it's just that there's a, it's the level of comfort, and you don't ever want to have you never want to be at a point where you feel I am completely comfortable. You shouldn't ever be completely comfortable because there's always something you always have to pay attention.
Yeah.
But it's certainly I do have more trust than I did a year ago. And I think
Yeah.
in a year from now, I'll have even more trust.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. That's great. And speaking about trust, so if that process ran smoother, how would that what would that free up your team to do? Like, what do you think would you gain from improving that process?
Well, I think a big part of it is I mean, having more time for substantive work is huge. I mean, it
Mm,
depends on how much work is incoming. If you can take on more work, if you can be if you're able to reliably be able to say, I can get, here's a project that would have taken me 8 hours. I can get it done in 4 now. And I
mm,
know I'll be able to get it done in 4. Then you can open yourself up to take on more work.
mm,
The last thing you ever want to do is say, here, tell 4 clients that you're going to get their work done in 2 weeks. And then it turns out you can only get, you don't have, there's just not enough hours in the day to get it done.
yeah.
So just having that reliability of being able to schedule your time is what I think will be pretty transformative.
Yeah. And what would, if this actually worked, what would it look like for you, even in simple terms? This would work better, or this actually worked. What would that look like for you?
Well, what I think is going to eventually get to is that there's going to be work is just the development of probably more integrated, like team-based tools. Right now, it still feels very much like a very personalized process. Like I have my instance of Claude, someone else has their instance of Claude.
Yeah.
We're not really collaborating. I mean, there's still a gap between that, and
Mm,
I think we're going to get to the point where yes, we have 4 people working on a project. We're all working together. We figured out how to cooperate and how to have AI that's meeting all of our needs. And
yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see how that works.
I hear you. So cross collaboration and the same kind of at least foundation where all of the team and it learns and keeps on improving. Each one can have his own, like, adaptations or improvements or like customization, but at least there's a core foundation that all the team is building on and it's learning and it's scaling with scale, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the other factor is, which is a big concern for law firms is security.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of the reasons why Scale has its own, connectors that it wants to offer is that there's so many connectors and, add-ons that are out there that you don't know what the security profile is for them.
Mm, mm.
There could be a harmful actor that has something embedded in there. And particularly in the legal framework, you want to make sure that any confidential data is
Yeah.
sandbox. It doesn't get out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we had this with also a top law firm in New York that they wanted it to be on-prem, their own. How do you deal also with because I know like if you put things on Claude, on ChatGPT, even or Harvey, like it basically belongs to them. Like they own the data in a way. If anything happens, like how do you handle this kind of issue? Not every law firms handle it the same, and I know it's quite sensitive. So
mhm.
topic. So yeah.
Well, I think part of that is, don't use a free option. I mean, that's
Mm,
if you're paying, I think you have to pay for the sandboxing. There's
mm,
no
mm.
if you're, when you go with, oh, if someone said I'm using the free chat GPT to do my legal research and I'm putting client information in there, you know, y- that's a potential disaster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you have a agreement and it says this information is being, if that data is being kept sandboxed, which is something that Harvey does offer, then
Mm,
there's that additional level of trust. And again, it's not necessary. You still have to have the trust. You still have to feel,
yeah,
you have to hope that there's no, the internet and data there's always potential risk. There's always potential,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
holes where things can slip through.
Interesting. I would really want to ask you at some point if you feel Harvey is worth the thousand, I think 200 subscription versus like the maybe 50 or 100 you'd pay on Claude. But yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this
I mean,
because it's like a 10x difference. It
it
feels like,
is.
yeah.
And I think it's going to come down to what Harvey can do to improve their product over
Mm,
time. Really, there's a race going on. Harvey is one of the players there, but you also have Westlaw. You have Anthropic, and Anthropic is a giant, but they're very, very good at what they're doing right now. And if Harvey can't keep up, then and a year from now, it may be that no, it's not worth it for this, or
mm,
they're going to have to lower their prices to be more competitive.
yeah.
So for now, I still like Harvey. I still like that. I like being able to have, I like the security level of it. I like being able to have my own workflow in there. But I'm exploring Claude, and I might make that switch. I need some more time to play with them both.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, we're coming to the end here. So think about everything you've seen. Is there a specific workflow, habit, or meeting where leaders should honestly just cut the BS because it looks productive but really isn't? We're happy to quote you on this. Like whatever you say, we can mention just cut the BS leaders. So yeah,
Yeah,
what comes to mind?
I think the most important thing is, don't look at the hype. Look at the results and look at what you're doing today. Look at your current needs. Don't look to the future, because the future is going to be completely different.
Mm,
You can't predict what's going to happen.
amazing.
And,
Okay, that's great. And
all right.
if you could give one piece of advice to leaders dealing with the same issue you're dealing with, what would it be?
I think need to, treat AI as a tool,
Mm,
and don't treat it as you have to treat it as you would an employee, someone you
mm,
have to consider trust, and you have to consider, what the capabilities are. Just, yeah, don't buy into the hype. Just be aware that there's going to be limitations, and that can potentially, and potential risks, but you can still do plenty of work with that.
amazing. Matthieu, thank you so much. It's been super insightful. I love the balanced approach. Everything you mentioned today is super rich and you've tried a lot of things. And I feel you have a very, very very focused and very like balanced approach in how you perceive things. So thank you for sharing these amazing insights. I really had fun getting to know
Thank you.
you. I hope the audience also. Anything else you want to share? Anything else on top of mind?
Well, I mean, just, thank you very much for inviting me to this. This was a lot of fun, and it was great talking to you. I hope that, hope I'm looking forward to seeing this later on.
Amazing. Thank you, Matthieu. Wish you a nice evening and rest of day, and hopefully we'll chat
Yep.
again soon.
Thank you. All right.
So
Check.
Matthieu, thank